sticking on this point of conversation, what would be your message to young people, well, people in general, about finding positive role models in today's society? And I say this in mind, especially with young men, where they're sort of told there's a narrative of their masculinity as toxic, and they feel they're sort of taught to reject their masculinity, whatever you would define masculinity as. And that inevitably springs up these social media people and icons that you look up to and you follow, and there are lots of those popping up today. And I feel like there's a loss of identity, or there's a real gap for looking for positive role models. And what would your message be to young people who need those role models?
That's one of the most wonderful things to see at FSY is the relationship between the counselors and the youth. The counselors are young single adults who are just a little bit older than the youth. And finally, those youth see positive role models. They interact for a whole week with these young adults, and they say, oh my gosh, she screams and yells at the games. My counselor lost her voice because she screams so much at the games. She eats pizza like a man. She was at the pizza party just downing it, and yet she bears testimony. She has a testimony. Then they say, oh my gosh, that counselor, that guy, he can dance like a maniac. I mean, he's out there just rocking it, but he prays. And for many of them, they see that for the first time, you can have fun and you can be spiritual. You can be religious at the same time. And those role models are making a difference for the youth. If youth will stop looking toward the world for role models, the world offers so few. We have rock musicians, we have athletes, we have politicians, we have people that are constantly living a double standard. One way in public, another way in private, and youth are forever being disappointed by the heroes of the world. And it's not that that's new. I mean, it was Newsweek magazine that did a thing many years ago that talked about the top teen idols of all history. The top teen idols. Number one was Elvis Presley, who died of a drug overdose. If he's dead, there's always those people that say, oh no, I saw him in my ward last week. You had Madonna, who is quoted as saying, I saw losing my virginity as a career move. And you have the Beatles. At one point, John Lennon said the Beatles are more popular than Jesus. And it's not the fact that he said it, it's the fact that everybody didn't even question it. I mean, the world's role models are never going to be able to hold up. But if we can turn to role models that are close at hand, not far away out in the world, but close at hand, look among the youth in your ward, in your state, and find a kid that you can look at and say, if he can do it, I can do it. Look among mission companions and say, gosh, if he can do it, I can do it. Look among young single adults who are making right choices. And then you start finding role models that, as it says in the FSY guide, they're different from the world so that they can make a difference in the world. That's what you were talking about. And I think if they look for their role models a little closer to home, a little closer to the church, then they're going to find incredible role models. to follow. But if we look toward the world, I'm afraid there aren't too many role models in the great and spacious building. The role models they're going to find are the ones that are along the rod, the ones who have knelt at the tree and partaken of the fruit. Those are the role models that they will find.